Revolutionary talk for revolutionary times. Promoting peace, liberty, and prosperity around the clock. LibertyTalk.fm.
Welcome to Living in the Solution with Dr. Elena George. Today I'm looking forward to our conversation. Our guest is a return guest and somebody who I'd love to have on because he has such a fund of knowledge, but more importantly, the ability to explain it and discuss it in terms that everybody can understand. Today I want to welcome back Mr. Karl Streitel. He's a retired teacher. He taught English high school and finance for 19 years. And now he works as a freelance editor and tutor. He can be contacted at ksediting at opayq.com and via his Substack, The Mental Lab, at mentallab.substack.com. So, Mr. Streitel, I wanted to thank you so much for spending time with us today because we had this conversation before, but school is obviously, as a doctor, it had to be one of my favorite things. And everything that I'm hearing about the education system is just me going in the wrong direction. And you wrote an article, 2 Ways the School Complex Muzzles Parents and Students. And I wanted to get your opinion about where do you think the state of our education system is? And down the road, I like to talk about, again, solutions, how parents can really take their power back and have control once again. And am I wrong? First of all, are parents losing control of their children? That wasn't the case when I was a student. Is that a place that we need to start from so we can understand where we are right now?
Well, first of all, you gave me quite a bit to chew on there. First of all, thank you so much for having me back. As I mentioned before we went on air, it's always a pleasure to speak to both you and to your audience. So once again, I always welcome that opportunity. So thank you. Regarding your questions there, I think one of the issues, and it ties in directly with the last item that you mentioned, or the question that you asked, which was related to parents and losing control of their children. I think it's important to start off by differentiating, though, between school and education. And I think one of the main problems that has occurred over time, in my opinion, is the marriage, the unholy matrimony of those two, and where they become almost synonymous. And for many people, they are synonymous. That, I'm sure there might be several people even in your audience sitting there right now listening to this saying, why is he repeating himself? School and education, right? They're interchangeable. They're the same thing. But truly, they couldn't be more different. And especially as the compulsory school system has grown in this country and around the world, they, in an ironic way, the closer they get to each other in the compulsory school system, the farther apart they are in terms of their goals. And if I'm making sense by saying that, I'll try to think about that for a moment if I'm phrasing that accurately. But I mean, education, learning, I think of those two things as synonymous, education and learning. And of course, that's what happens every day, right? That's what happens naturally. That doesn't require a teacher. Now, a teacher may be involved in some way, but obviously we all learn on a daily basis from every single thing that we do, right? Every piece of information that our senses are taking in, we're using, and our mind is computing and we're learning from. And that's one of the great joys, in my opinion, of being human, is that ability to learn and that ability to take in that information and to make critical decisions using that. Now, school can play into that in various ways and has throughout much of modern human history in any way. But as soon as those two things become completely and utterly intertwined, and especially as soon as force enters into it, then what we see is the loss of education and the rise of school. School in terms of a bureaucracy, school in terms of a structure that basically exists, like I stated in my article, to perpetuate itself. Like most things government, like most things large, even in the private sector too, they exist to continue themselves, to perpetuate themselves. And that is a true problem. Now, to bring that back to your question in terms of the parents' control, or perhaps a different term, parents' involvement in the lives of their children, yes, I think that the growth of this bureaucratic school system has much to do with that. However, I do want to make clear, and I don't mind stepping on toes anymore these days, because I think it's important to tell the truth, like Thomas Sowell says. When if you want to help yourself, you tell people what they want to hear. If you want to help other people, you tell them the truth. And I think here one of the issues is that parents have quite a bit of culpability in this as well, that they have allowed this to happen, and many continue to allow this to happen. They've allowed the outsourcing of basically raising their children to the educational industrial complex, which is more than happy to take on that role, because it means that now they have the control, right? They can mold the children in their image instead of in your image, right? In your family's image, that they can provide the principles of their own choosing and then have those supersede your family's principles. And, as parents want to enter, continue to be in the workforce and, make more money and have certain lifestyles, then they offload the raising of their children to government schools in many cases. And so I think that there's plenty of blame to go around, but I just want to be clear that I think that, the school system is happy to take that responsibility and control wherever it can, but it's also part and parcel of something that parents have allowed and continue to do. Now, thankfully, we do see some parents starting to push back against that with the rise of homeschooling and alternative schools and things like that. So let me pause there. I apologize, but I just wanted to make clear sort of the groundwork from which I'm approaching things.
No, I think that you're right. There's this willingness, I think, throughout society, really, to have somebody take care of you. And somebody should be, they know more than you do. You cede your control to them. And that goes in healthcare as well, where people are basically doing the I wouldn't say the bidding, but perhaps all these drug company commercials. It's like this dance offs and all these cute music, and people come in asking for the drug, for example, but there's no thought behind it. What about fixing the problem? And, you mentioned, personal responsibility is, to me, a very important thing. Are we at a point, and I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, where if parents want to take the control of raising their child back, can they? I mean, this has become such a grid where you have all these social services, healthcare services,